Hi, we are back here in the second part, and I was speaking about how easy it would be to feed the world if only people were godly. Like literally everybody would eat. There's more than enough food on this earth for every last person to not only eat every day, but just be satiated. They would become gluttons. Every person, the amount of food that is every single day healthy to eat on the earth would feed everybody to a point of gluttony for some. The whole world would be obese like America if people were godly. Except if they were godly, they would know when to stop. So, the fact that you can sit around like praising and chanting, ululating the praises of a woman like Lizzo who's just like a ball of obesity, while some kid somewhere else is emaciated, it is a travesty. It is irresponsible entirely, and it is precisely because nobody is thinking on behalf of other people. There is no empathy. That's the word. Yes, there's no empathy. The ability to feel on behalf of someone else even though you're not in their shoes. And that empathy is an absolute requirement for us all as human beings from the Lord of the universe, who is frankly the only pursuit of happiness that every person should be after, because he's the only one that can indeed guarantee it, because it is only acquirable or attainable in heaven, in an incorruptible state, in the final space that we are going into. It is called eternity. And so if you disregard God, you basically shoot yourself in the foot. You send yourself to hell, but not before you first eat your fill of this earth, greedily so, with no empathy for your fellow man, enough to make a celebrity woman celebrated for being too big when she is the size of 5 children in Ethiopia. Y'all need to, guys, you know what, man? We got some issues. God has a problem with greed. I used to have an issue with food, right? Eating disorders and whatnot on the come up, and so I had a very unhealthy way of looking at food. Because of my lack of health, good eating habits as a teenager, I became somewhat of a glutton as a young adult because I just overate. It was only when I came to Christ that He gave me a fasting discipline, and so fasting took away all these cravings, and now I eat normally. But every so often I will just pile on too much food on my plate because I have an unhealthy relationship with food. I love it. I love it too much. Not anymore. I used to, but fasting has helped me overcome that. I've never been fat. I was one of those, like, I had body dysmorphic disorder. I was incredibly skinny, but I still wanted to be thinner. Alright? And so I developed a binge eating issue. I've never, even from binge eating, ever been fat, but I nonetheless had that issue. And now that I'm in Christ, every time my system, my body sends a signal to my mind when I'm eating food that I'm full. If I try to take another spoon of food, God basically tells me through the Holy Spirit that you're a glutton. So now I make sure, I have a thing about waste. I don't like wasting food. So if I've got food on my plate, I'm going to finish it even if I'm full now. So now I have had to discipline myself to put less food on my plate, so I never get to a point where my stomach is signaling to my brain that I'm full, and so have the Holy Spirit basically rebuke me and tell me, you're eating more than you need. You're satiated now. You're full. You can burp. On top of that, you still got juice that you're going to finish. You've got water that you're going to drink afterwards to make sure that your digestion is done well. Like, garabo, stop eating. But because I've still got an extra slice of bread on my dish, God, who's going to eat it? I am guilty about this slice of bread, God. I'm pretty sure it's going to like gather dust in the fridge until it is in the dustbin. So I eat it, but it's one extra slice of bread that I don't need. So I'll put less on my plate so that I won't ever feel guilty for wasting or be told by God, you're a glutton now. Stop eating so much. Stop putting so much on your plate. You are walking in your former ways as a teenager where you had an unhealthy relationship with food. You're a grown woman now. You're 38. Like, what's with the attitude? What's with the attitude? Girl, you gotta stop now. So thank you, Jesus, for rescuing me from my body dysmorphic disorder, from my eating disorder habits, from my bad relationship with food, and from my irresponsibility with consumption when so many other people are not eating on the earth. Thank you, God, for giving me perspective. That is how holy God is. Everything absolutely matters, and He will have nothing to do with His children or with His servants who, claim to adore Him, doing things that people on the earth easily and very casually glide in their cavalier consumption of earth's events. He will have nothing to do with His disciples being just like Lizzo. We understand you have an issue with eating, but it is problematic given that your body could literally enter into it. There could be easily 5 Ethiopian teenagers fitting into it. You've got too much fat, but when you come to Christ, He helps you overcome such things as those, because it is irresponsible and apathetic to the cause of those that need to be aided. It just adds insult to injuries all over the show. So how do you fix it? No, it's unfixable. But for the millennial reign, which is going to make people realize how easy it would have been to feed everybody, and so the carnage on the ground of people that died that didn't have to die, that would have made this world a better place race, if at all their contribution intellectually was considered, that's the blood that the human race is going to have to basically account for. Those are all the people that will have gotten killed by corporates across the world, by greed. And it will become so obvious and so stark and so clear to everybody that participated in this mutiny against the human race that that's what they did. Now that they have found themselves in the tribulation and they are now on the receiving end of inefficiencies, or what is this, on the receiving end of true hardship, as opposed to this manufactured human hardship that's currently hitting the earth. We indeed, in the last days, God did say that there would be earthquakes in diverse places, there would be famines and pestilences. But do you know what magnifies those famines and those pestilences? It is the very moral turpitude of the human race. There's more disease than there needs to be because people are evil, and on top of that, they're not curing enough people. There's enough advancements. There are enough advancements in the medical industry to cure like a lot of people on the earth from the things that they're going, but nobody's getting to them. If you think about, for instance, you know how I told you guys that God showed me the cure for HIV is a thing that's coming in the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. The Lord has shown me that there are so many illnesses and diseases that could very easily, and indeed there has been a little bit of an Archimedes discovery in so many laboratories across the world with people saying, Eureka, Eureka, Eureka! And their bosses have been like, no, I'm sorry, you cannot sell this cure because it's so much more profitable to treat this disease. And so they smother the work of an excellent scientist and they pay them a whole bunch of money to shut them up, and they continue to treat people that can't be cured. Among such issues is within the cancer community. And I will go so far as to say, I believe HIV might actually already have a cure. But whoever it is that was the Archimedes of HIV was silenced, smothered, told no, it's a lot more profitable to treat this thing. We have got not only antiretrovirals, but all of these other medical interventions to prevent, if at all the one person is HIV positive and then the person that they're with is not HIV positive, there is some protocol that they go on to minimize the possibility of the partner contracting it. There are guys, like just everything that is being, like the advancements, the pioneering ones at that in HIV treatment are such that these people can live long, healthy lives. And a lot of them get killed by things like heart attacks, car accidents, like the rest of us. Not so much from full-blown AIDS are they dying, but they are essentially on chronic medication that they have to buy, that their medical aids have somewhere. Even if the governments are providing them for free, their governments have got to buy them for a cost, but there is a subsidy on there. Everything is a business. And so what therefore is going on is that they're keeping people reliant on such medication. HIV, diabetes, cancer, there are treatable conditions that not just treatable, sorry, but what I wanted to say was curable, but it is far more profitable to treat than to cure. It is all because of racketeering, money laundering, unsavory business practices, profiteering, just all different kinds of manner of evil on the part of the human race, because this earth is all they're juicing, it's all they have hope in. And so because they're nihilistic and so don't see a God in this whole occasion and affair, they just want to be the richest guy around, or they want to be the richest girl around, or they want to be the guy or the girl that after 10 years of everybody really suffering with something, they finally release that cure for only one type of cancer, but not all of them. Human beings have been given enough wisdom and understanding by the God of the universe to heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying if you care enough for it. Yeah, no, the Lord has made it possible for that Michael Jackson prayer song to be answered, and yet with answered prayer being blocked, like indeed the Prince of Persia in the case of Daniel, it's not getting to Daniel fast enough. So there's got to be a fast and a prayer. So there will be one for 7 years that's going to release all the cures of cancer, all the cures of diabetes, all the cures of HIV, lupus, whatever might be these issues that everybody across the world is struggling with, disease, pestilence. It is written in God's word. It's going to be one of the key indicators of looking after the last days. There'll be more and more of these diseases rolling around in these streets, but God's wrath is going to be pent up on the fact that despite there being a cure, and you know it, they're sitting in the pharmaceuticals industry, you just won't give it because it's far more profitable to treat. It is far more profitable to treat. Everybody can eat, everybody can live to a ripe old age, but some people gotta die. And then this whole genocidal random, how about we just wipe them off the earth because we only need 500 million, and like the strategy of the global elites to like reduce the number of human beings on the earth to a manageable size. God said be multiple, go out there, be be fruitful and multiply. And yet these guys are going literally in the opposite direction of that, claiming there is not enough habitable land on the earth, and everybody's like taking up too much oxygen and releasing too much CO2. Guys, if you drive to Cape Town using the garden route, there are so many patches of land where homes can be built that people can live in, and yet we have all. I cannot stand this next door neighbor's cat. I'll be back. I'm sorry, there is a cat that keeps on wreaking havoc in my cat's life. And the other day I poured water on it and now it's scared of me. I'm like, it's not enough for you to be scared of me. You just need to avoid this yard. Next time I'm pouring a volcano. I'm kidding, no. Let's not abuse animals. But we just broke up a cat fight. Okay, I bet you heard that sounding now. And I've lost my train of thought. So hopefully I'll be able to find my bearings again. What was I talking about? See, now I've lost my bearings. God, please restore me to what it is that I was talking about. Look, I think I was alluding to something about nihilism and how it is that the powerful forces of this earth, the mere mortal ones at that, are so nihilistic that they don't see that there is a God that is very disquieted by this. Yes, and yes, this is where I lost my train of thought. The anger of the Lord, the wrath of the Lord is pent up against the fact that these famines on the earth and these earthquakes and earthquakes, are not a man-made issue. That's God, right? But that's a total act of God. Some people argue about geo manipulation, but we're not even going to get into that. But famines, a lot of them are systematically sort of kind of caused by earth greed, the citizens on here, and so too diseases, pestilences that also can be cured. And the Lord has like a massive bone to pick with that, because remember, God takes the cause of the widow and the orphan, guys. He takes care of the cause of the oppressed. And so the Lord is absolutely besotted and gazes with favor upon people who are just basically disregarded by the earth and ignored. And it is these people that strangely are dropping like dominoes, but everybody else is surviving. It is the poor of the earth, the disregarded, the ignored, that are most looked at with favor by God, and yet they are the ones that are underfed. I made mention of how apparently allegedly there are too many of us. Yes, that was also another point that I was carried away from by the disturbance outside with the cat. The claim that there are too many of us, we're just overcrowding everywhere, we're overpopulating the earth. Yeah, of course you're gonna say that. When human beings, yeah guys, the evil of the human race is like literally out of this world. People have made a decision to create infrastructure. They've made a decision to create infrastructure in little tiny ensconced circles, just tiny little hubs. They've made cities, bustling entire ecosystems, and then left the rest of this world, this big one, just forestry or just dry patch of land or road land, whatever, and look for kilometers upon kilometers. It's just nothing's going on. It's empty. And then again, you enter then into a neighborhood and lots of houses like packed next to each other. And then when there are so many people living in these houses that literally there's too many of them per capita, then you claim we're overpopulated. I'm sorry, spread them out a little bit, then you'll see nobody's overpopulated here. Because move houses apart just a little bit more broader, create more yard space so that more of this earth is filled up. Then maybe you must stop complaining about excess expulsion of CO2. When I was a child, this totally spoke volumes. It spoke such incredible volumes. We went to this camp called Bush Pigs somewhere and I enjoyed it. Okay, yeah, but as a kid, I remember when first night of Bush Pigs, it was basically a camp in a rural area. The first night we went out and they made us lay down on the grass and look at the sky, and they told us stories about animals. And guys, I was shocked out of my mind as a little girl. I was in standard 3. What is that? Grade 5. I was in grade 5. No, not grade 5, even younger than that. It was in Mayfair Convent, so that would be grade 3 or grade 4. Yeah, grade 3 or 4. That's when we went to Bush Pigs. Yeah, guys, and they told us these stories about the kinky, the clip springers and whatnot, and they made us lay on this grass and look at the stars, and I was out of my mind, shocked at how many stars in the sky there were. There were so many. It's like and also they look so close to the earth. It's like they would all just fall on me. It's like I was looking at diamonds literally in the sky. It was beautiful. And then we went back home, and there weren't so many stars. Indeed, one of the camp leaders explained to us that the reason why you guys are seeing so many stars in the sky is because the inner city is so polluted. The inner city is so polluted that you don't see all the stars in the sky when you look up. So pollution is essentially concentrated in the areas where human life is bustling. But if we spread out a little bit more, there would be less of it per capita, and so all of us would see a little bit more stars, meaning that if go Bush Peaks you can see all the stars, but here in downtown Joburg you can't see all the stars when you look up in the sky. It says that we are essentially being lied to. I don't want to speak too much lest they should bring me down. It says that human beings have decided to concentrate themselves in one little small space, and then made everybody look at the sky in this little small space, and everybody be like, see, we're emitting too much carbon dioxide, we're emitting too many fossil fuels, we are releasing too much gas in the sky, and now there's no star. But when you go to the rural areas, the air is crisp, the air is so beautiful, it's so clean, it's fresh, lungs are reverberated, are refreshed, and then when you look up you see more stars. So all that human beings have to do to preserve the sanctity of air is just spread out a little bit. There's more than enough space to go around, yet apparently we're overpopulated. All of these lies are being proliferated by the human race in order to control, in order to create a manageable size of people that they can control, because human beings don't want to believe in a God that all of them have got to worship. So mankind have made themselves God, and so therefore they've come up with random theories to convince the whole planet that they are God. The Antichrist rises to power because of this. People are living in one little ecosystem that has no stars when the rest of the earth has got more than enough stars, and they're like, see, there's too much pollution and you're the reason, so now we're gonna put you in an electric car and monitor the living daylights out of you, stop it if we want to with an EMP attack, and that's your life. The Lord's wrath pins up and reaches a height because of the understanding of what's actually happening versus what is being told to people on the ground. It is written in God's word that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. So when you don't gather insights, understanding, you die. You die spiritually and then eventually ultimately physically. And so go to the spiritual place where those that are dead physically and spiritually go, hell. And a whole bunch of citizens on the planet are getting sent to hell. And human beings, you are without excuse, because the invisible qualities of God are all over creation. Many of you have driven from Johannesburg to Cape Town and seen a whole bunch of stars. You've seen a whole bunch of wildlife. You've seen a whole bunch of healthy, thriving earth. You've seen a whole bunch of animals. You have seen it with your own eyes, and yet you believe what you see on your laptop when you get to the inner city that has cramped all of you in one tiny little space, and you can barely breathe, and everybody's in your personal space. The human race made a decision to build cities and suburbia, residential areas in tiny little close proximity to each other in order to create manageable sizes of human beings. They are the ones that refuse to spread them out across a vast area of land so that more people could have, each of them bigger. Like if you were to look at some of the older houses or homes in the rural areas, how much yard space every house has, because they don't have resources and money. They can't build swimming pools, they can't extend, they can't put paving, and they can't also lay lawns that are going to be beautiful, and so therefore have like this landscape garden that's just killing it. They don't have the money to make out of their big yards something excellent. But the fact that it is even possible for them to have such big yards, and yet you're living in this exorbitantly expensive apartment building that is just cramped, that's problematic. If also you were to look at older neighborhoods, the human race is becoming more and more simple. If you were to look at older older neighborhoods, maybe that were built in the 50s, 20s, 60s, those houses, those individual yards, my mom personally, and I mean, when I say 50s, as early as the 90s, we had a house in Winchester Hills. Yo, guys, it was a small little koti. My mother, bought it off plan, and she built it in the center of this massive yard, and she had plans to extend, and if one day she had a plan to get a swimming pool and whatnot. Let me just explain to you the first ever house that my mom bought that she lost because life happened. It was a small little house in the center of a big yard. This yard was so gargantuan that there was a driveway that was perhaps 500 meters is extreme. I think maybe 300 or 200 meters. It was long, it was quite the walk to get through driveway Yakuhai. We had to drive, and then once we were through the driveway, we finally got to the place where the house was at, and it was a walk to get to the house that was slap bang in the middle. And guys, the yard, it was massive, and we were just one such house in Winchester Hills, and it was so cheap for my mom to buy that house. One of the earliest jobs that she had. It was so cheap. The yard was huge. My mom loved gardening, planting, and all that jazz. like it's obvious, it's evident when you see her garden now outside. If I were to show it to you guys, it was so broad, so like it was huge. My mom had, like I said, future plans to get a swimming pool, make this house bigger, and perhaps even get a what do you call this, like make it double story. And it was so large, this house, that it would be easy one day upon being extended to like literally just easily be a comfortable mansion that had enough room for everybody to walk on all the sides of this mansion without taking up all the yard space. But unfortunately we lost it. It was gargantuan. We have never lived in such a big yard anymore before, ever since then. And then where we moved to afterwards was a sectional title complex townhouse that was built, and that had been built like not so long ago. It was one of the newer developments. Yo, how cramped it was. It was so small, and literally your next door neighbor was just here, your opposite one was just there. Yeah, these developments in the greater metropolis that is Johannesburg, just over the past 10 years, maybe 15, have gotten smaller and smaller. Kitchens have gotten smaller and smaller. Back in the day, everybody's kitchen was a room on its own. Now it's you rarely ever would come across anybody living in a townhouse unit that was purchased in the past 10 to 15 years where everybody's not with an open plan kitchen, where your kitchen is mixed with the lounge and the dining room. Where I was growing up in Soweto, my grandmother's house, there are two doors, one entering the kitchen and one exiting the kitchen to enter the passage of the house. The kitchen was its own room. I don't know when was the last time I ever saw a house with a kitchen and that is its own room, other than old homes. Like, you know, I have had a friend that lived go Pimville, go Besta, and go Habona. Even though the house was not that big, the kitchen was its own room. My late aunt's house in Mamelodi, go Pretoria, the kitchen is its own room. But the houses of the 21st century, houses that were built just yesterday, literally nobody has got their own kitchen. The only people that have got a kitchen as its own room are the wealthy. They're the wealthy, the ones who have got gargantuan houses. But back in the day, even a small house, a kitchen was its own room that you could walk into, close a door, open a door, trap the heat, let the heat go out of that one room. Now the lounge and the kitchen is one big fat mix, like everything is just one big fat mix, like a bachelor. You know, a bachelor pad, where your bathroom is the only thing that in a bachelor pad that is separate is the toilet, the bathroom. But the kitchen and the living, like literally we are living in little glorified bachelor pads, because there is this decision out of this rapacious system of trying to like swindle everybody of money, to put them in a tiny little space that they can be controlled, and also to get as much money for as little effort put into the equation as you possibly can. All that stuff is evil, and the Lord looks at it with a great deal of disdain. He literally cannot stand it. He is holy because he has given all of us more than enough space. That's why he's going to give us mansions in heaven to show them how things are going to be done, but not before we first show you how it gets done right here on the earth. And they have made sure that they also build like inner cities. They build places of employment in one little space. No more just spreading out. Look, I can understand why businesses would need to be close to each other if they are related, but you can literally use up more of the earth space in order to give more people areas to live in. That's what I'm getting at. That are close to the work environments, but they have squeezed us in one place and then claimed we are overpopulated, and now we believe it. Why? Because indeed, why in the world are you so just literally around me, next door neighbor? Why are you so close? I can't stand it. Like this woman that lives opposite, every so often she's doing whatever more gardening high, and when I open this door because I'm living in such uncomfortable conditions and she's just there doing her thing, I'm like, oh, I just feel so invaded. It was much better back in the day, and it just keeps getting worse and worse because the wickedness of mankind is perilous in the last days. It gets worse and worse, including squeezing people in tinier and tinier station. And now what are they trying to do? 20-minute cities. Wow. Okay. And they're claiming it's all about climate change. They're trying to do 20-minute cities or 15-minute cities or 10-minute cities. What is this? The World Economic Forum. Go and Google or research YouTube what in the world a 20-minute or a 10-minute city is, and you will find out it is this place where people are told don't use your cars anymore, and make sure that everything that you need in your particular life all is within 10 or 20 minutes. So your kids go to a school that is just within 10 or 20 minutes. Your groceries are collected. You rarely ever drive out. You rarely ever go anywhere. So they're going to also monitor what holidays you take, how far you go, field trips, stuff like that. Just absolutely monitored. Everything was manufactured to finally get to this point. It's all a very Nimrodic Babylonian strategy, and it is 100% not by happenstance. It is planned. It is not an error of man's calculation. Oh, we should have built our houses a little bit farther apart. like if you were to look into the plans of the global elites and what they call the NWO, you will know that this has been a plan of secret societies for a minute to literally incubate people in tiny little spaces so they can run them. The devil is not omnipresent, and he needed to go and give people ideas of how it is that he can create his own pseudo omnipresence. And so what does he do? He creates people to operate and live in such a small space that he can, in and of himself as Satan, manage it. That is why you get barely any reception, even though cell towers could extend to far broader regions. You barely get any reception when you're out in the boondoos. They're trying to make sure that your life is just cut from all civilization when you go out of the controlled area. So those of you in the tribulation that live out in the wild and farms, you're better off. Those of you who are going to decide to go out in the wilderness, hence the Lord does even tell the Jews to flee to the mountains of Judea. Like, go to where it is that cell phone signals cannot ping your location, cannot identify you, where it is that there is no network, those bars on your phone like are on zero. But that's where you're safest, because that's where the Antichrist system cannot reach you. This is a plan. It is absolutely planned. It is not by happenstance that we just so happen to be squeezed like sardines in cities. It's not a mistake, and the Lord is very mightily upset with that. God is angry in the worst way, and so he's going to end this concern. Now, in these tiny little ecosystems that don't give people leg room, in these small little space, even airplanes have gotten smaller. Guys, your space, your leg room, it's just gotten smaller and smaller for profit, that they might add more chairs, that people might be able, so that they can get more money out of one airplane. They made the price of the Coca-Cola can, sorry, not the price, the size of the Coca-Cola can, they moved it from 340 milliliters to 330 milliliters, but for the same price. Did not even notice that it changed by 10 milliliters, but there is that much more liquid to put in extra in other bottles by Coca-Cola, and they're still charging us the same price for 10 milliliters less, and they didn't even let us know. Other than us just seeing, realizing that, oh, it's now 330 instead of 340, but the people complain, no, but Coca-Cola made a killing. They're just squeezing everything in smaller and smaller spaces to profit out of you, and not only profit, but control you. And it is all part of the one world system that's going to wreak havoc in your spiritual general thing that you are doing. So when I say that no one has to go hungry, understand it is a fact, because God created more than enough agricultural land on the earth. God created more than enough water on the earth to make sure, thanks to trade and industry, industrial revolutions that have come up with irrigation systems and plumbing that can reach into other countries, he has made sure that even in times of famine in certain countries, they can indeed still water their land. There is a river in Italy, Lake Po, that's all dried up, but Italians are still drinking water. That is evidence of the fact that it is possible to water some plants in the middle of a famine in a country, because there's literally more than enough water other places on the earth. So when it floods in one place, the flood would not destroy so much infrastructure. Like, y'all need to understand, the earth does not even have to endure all of these calamities when natural disasters hit. If they had built cities and just the infrastructure generally, if they had built infrastructure in such a way so as to make sure that the earth's resources are shareable across even borders, floods would not even be such a big thing. There wouldn't even be floods. What I'm trying to explain is that even with like violent waterfall from the sky, like rain, heavy rains, if at all they had built infrastructure in a way so as to like trade the water into an area that has got a drought or whose river is drying up, then when rain falls, all it would do is just make your day a little bit hot and make your hair nappy, make your hair frizzy, but it would not engulf your basement, because of how it is that the city has been built to flow water into not only a river, but also other countries' rivers, other neighboring countries' rivers, much like South Africa providing electricity to our neighboring countries in the days of apartheid and in the very beginning of the new South Africa. It was absolutely possible for us to share resources that we all had, such that when rain falls too violently, those guys who are in days of famine would enjoy plenty from countries that are getting plenty rainfall. Now everybody's in a deluge because of greed, because of rapacity, because of people building for just this tiny little environment ecosystem that is too small for that many people. And precisely the reason why they are doing that is because of the desire to control. Because of the desire to control. Yeah, guys, that's what's going on here on earth. So God is mad. God is mad because people are dying from thirst when there's so much water falling everywhere, flooding the earth. And people are dying from hunger when there is so much food being wasted everywhere, all over the the earth being put in dustbins. People are dying from lack of health care when there's so much medicine that is expiring every year. I could go on. So the thing that's going to basically set the record straight is the tribulation, because people won't share. People will not share. People will not do what is right. They will not WWJD. This is as easy as that. Don't come tell me about complexities in politics. Bottom line is those complexities are here because people are evil. God said in his word that he has come upon the earth not to bring peace but a sword. So I mean, all this division on the earth is precisely the reason why flood waters that decimate a neighboring country from why flood waters in a neighboring continent, or flood waters in a neighboring, frankly, like a country in Africa, why those flood waters are not being channeled to where it is that people are struggling to get water. It's happening because there's just too much evil. Too much evil for people to build infrastructure in a way that is beneficial. Industrial revolutions of the earth have made it possible for all of us to get everything we need, even in a time of famine. There will still be dry patches of land in the millennial reign. It is clear because God said if people don't go to Jerusalem once a year to honor him at, I think, the Feast of Booths, God is not going to again send rain on them for like a season to judge them. So there will still be famines and floods, but if they repented, their next door neighbors can give them plenty of rain. If they said, God, I'm sorry, they won't have to go hungry. The secret or the solution is godliness. The Lord has only expected one thing out of us, like that you shall have no other God but me. Worship me and me only. And the human race was like, no, I'm sorry. Why in the world does God not deserve worship when he built you? He made you. It doesn't make him arrogant. It makes him your creator. It makes him the potter. So as the pottery, you don't get to say, no, why'd you make me like this? And frankly, I don't like the fact that I gotta worship you. Fine, then you best to be broken then into pieces. If you don't want to worship the person who made you, then you know what? It's okay, be shattered into pieces, because you would much rather go and worship Beyonce. It doesn't make sense. To be recalcitrant against worshiping the creator doesn't make sense, because he is the creator. He deserves it. Let's move to the next part, guys.